The regular meeting of the Destin City Council, October 3rd, 2022, is now in session. First up, we don't have pastor tonight, but I'd like everyone to rise and bow your heads, and we're going to have a moment of silence to all our friends and family in Southwest Florida that have been that are still under the difficulties of Hurricane Ian. Thank you, everyone. Sir, would you like to lead us in the pledge tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Up first is our agenda approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Let me get my little button masher. Let's take that a vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Up first is a Death and Youth Council presentation. Ray?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. The Destin Youth Council had their second meeting of the year about a week ago, and at that meeting, they briefly addressed several initiatives or projects they would like to pursue during their tenure of office. Their term expires in July 2023. They will meet again on October 27, and at that time, they plan to prioritize these items, create their work plans, and then present them to Council for approval in November. At their previous meeting also, the group voted unanimously to present two of those items to Council for approval or advice tonight. One is beach cleanup. They feel this is an attainable project that they can do in October. Weather is beautiful in October, perfect time to pick up trash. If approved by Council now, they will have most of the month to figure out the logistics. And they want to do this for the environment and to raise awareness. Initiative number 2 is more of a fact-finding effort at this time. The group is seeking for the City Council's support and advice in establishing a local facility in Destin that can conduct a driver's license test on the road. They would like to see what kind of support would be needed from the City Council to get this idea in motion. And the group has some ideas, but I will let Ms. Grace Fountain, the Youth Council Chair, to discuss that with you tonight. And also here tonight is Annabelle Zielinski, who is the Vice Chair of the Committee of the Youth Council, and also Ms. Briar Ramswell from Destin High School. So if you're a member of Destin High School and I missed you, please stand up. Or I'm in the Youth Council. Okay? Mayor, I present to you Ms. Grace Fountain.
Hi, I'm Grace Fountain. I'm the chair of the Destin Youth Council. Like Ray said, there's a couple of our priorities that we'd like to discuss tonight. The beach cleanup was one of our priorities. We just want to present some ideas that would maybe get our youth involved in our city projects. One of them being having a start date and sometime in October, depending on if you support us or not. Announcing to the city, having some of our high school students and younger students obviously come out, maybe do a contest to see who can create the most or gather the most trash on our beaches. And also we had another idea of maybe creating this piece of art with the trash that we collect just to present to our city and show how much trash is actually on our beaches. Without our help to clean up our local beaches, they'll eventually just be consumed in trash, which we obviously don't want because we are very proud of our white, clean beaches. The other idea that we did have was somewhere that we could have a local on-the-road driving test. As you guys may know, we can do the driving test online, stuff like that, but we still have to take an on-the-road driving course with an instructor in the car. Upcoming drivers have to go to Niceville to take the test. South Walton did have it, but after COVID, they shut that down. So we haven't come up exactly with concrete details for this, but we are presenting maybe the tax collector's office, maybe doing 1 day a week, having on-the-road driving courses so that upcoming drivers wouldn't have to travel so far to take this mandatory test. So yeah, we were just asking for some support and asking what would be needed to get these ideas in motion. So.
Any council members like to weigh in? Go ahead.
Yeah. So your whole committee has been tremendous, and it's been amazing hearing them talk. And it's been a really eye-opening seeing all the ideas that came out. So I'm really excited for everyone to see the full list. With the Florida League of Cities doing a competition amongst all the youth councils in the area, I encouraged them to pick something. I promise I did not tell them to pick up the beach. They said that on their own. That was not me at any point. But with that came this idea, and with that, we're going to hopefully, with their support and direction from the committee, we'll be bringing this to the state level and competing with their idea against other regional or youth councils to see if we can compete at the state level and as activity and as citizens of the youth. I thought that I never considered the car driver's test, and I actually had to go to Shalimar at the time when I got my license. So I think this is something that was a great idea, and I think what we're looking for is staff support and anyone's knowledge up here of what that looks like to, have that dialogue with the state, if that's so, or at the county level to bring that resource down to the south side of the bay. We clearly have enough youth here to have a high school. Why not have a once a week or twice a week driving facility to accommodate them? And to their point, they're having to take a test on a road that they probably won't travel that much for. So why not have the safety aspect of them getting graded and performed on the roads that they most likely will ride if they were to get issued a permit? So I thought they were all great initiatives, and I really appreciate you guys allowing me to be a part of it all.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. Good job. I want to thank Councilmember Wagner, and I really want to thank Ray for doing this. Ray and I, as the proud father of a former president or chair of the Youth Council, I know she would be upset with me if I didn't say something. So I would make a motion to direct staff to reach out to the tax collector's office and request once a week on-road driving test in the Destin area. They can do it out of their office or their old office over here. Actually, I guess it's over there. I get mixed up in this building sometimes. And I would add that I would ask you to reach out to the TDC. We missed, the Nature Conservancy does the huge beach cleanup worldwide, and we missed that in September already. But the TDC normally funds that with trash bags and advertising and paperwork. So reach out to the TDC and ask them to support a independent, at least for this year, and maybe next year we can do it in conjunction with the Nature Conservancy Beach Cleanup Day, to assist the Youth Council. But thank you, Ray. Thank you,
I'll second
Bobby.
that long motion.
Yeah. I think you understand the direction.
Thank you, Mayor. Race, what are the steps for that? Once you get support from the city, then we have to go to state with that?
We don't have concrete details yet. We just was wanting to ask for support first, and then our next meeting is the end of October, so we will discuss, further details. For the beach cleanup, our first step would be to reach out to the youth around Destin. I'm sure throughout our council we can connect with a bunch of different people and just create a date for everybody to go out, and then we can come up with more details for the contest and, like Jim said, connect with other people to help us. For the driving idea, we again, we don't have any concrete ideas or details. So once, like Jim said, connect with tax office, and we will try to connect with them too and get some more ideas on how we can get that in motion.
Thank you so much. Appreciate what you're doing.
Good job. I would also recommend you to contact the Choctachi Basin Alliance. They're very interested in cleaning the shoreline of the bay and the water also, and I'm sure they'd be thrilled to have you guys help them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then, we have a motion and a second. Jim, go
I
ahead.
forgot to thank one person, Sam Severs, who started this whole Destin Youth Council. I know she not physically here in Destin anymore, but I want to thank her.
Yeah, and to honor that, her big thing was for you guys to also do research. So as well as us, I definitely challenge the council to, try to do as much as you guys can on the front end. Everything's public record and public knowledge, so it's surprising how much information you can gather when you start looking in the right direction.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. We got a motion. We have a second. Let's go ahead and take this to a vote. Yeah, you can vote. You're. Ayes have it. You
Thank
got
you.
your support now. Do your part.
Okay.
Start doing some research and set a date for this cleanup because it's the 3rd of October already.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All righty then. Ray, we have a proclamation, National Code Compliance Month. I'm assuming we have some code compliance, our new code compliance director here. You can come up here with the handsome mayor and get your photo. First official media PR attempt here. Oh, do I really need one? I'm pretty good. That's a polite way of saying I have a big mouth. City of Destin Proclamation, National Code Compliance Month. Whereas the city code enforcement officers provide for safety and welfare of the citizens throughout the United States through the enforcement of local codes or ordinances facing various issues of building, zoning, housing, animal control, environmental, health, and life safety. And whereas code enforcement officers often have a challenging and demanding role and often do not receive recognition for the job that they do in improving living and working conditions for residents and businesses of local communities. And whereas the role of many code enforcement officers has expanded in recent years, you know that, with the increased number of foreclosed and abandoned homes and communities impacted economically, and whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated and highly qualified professionals who share the goals of preventing neighborhood deterioration, enhancing and ensuring safety, and preserving property values through knowledge and application of housing, zoning, and nuisance codes and ordinances. And whereas code enforcement officers often have a highly visible role in the communities they serve and regularly interact with a variety of state officials, county officials, first responders, legislative boards, commissions, agencies, and bodies. And whereas code enforcement officers are called upon to provide quality customer service and excellence to the residents and businesses of the communities in which they serve. Whereas the American Association of Code Enforcement wants to recognize and honor code enforcement officers and professionals all across the United States and bring awareness to the importance of code enforcement to the communities of the United States. And whereas the American Association of Code Enforcement was established in 1988 for the purpose of providing ongoing training and support for code enforcement professionals working in the United States, and now therefore be it proclaimed the month of October 2022 as National Code Compliance Month, and call upon municipalities and communities to join in recognizing and expressing their appreciation for the dedication and service of the individuals who serve our code enforcement officers. Ma'am, would you like to say a few words, new on the job?
Thank you very much for recognizing our code compliance officers. It's a difficult job, and the recognition is much appreciated anytime. And it is a hard job that our officers do, and being recognized this month. And this is nationally, and the state recognizes them again in May. So it's, anytime we can get the recognition, it's a job, kind of a thankless job sometimes. People don't understand a lot of times about that, but I really appreciate you and the council for recognizing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I don't want to be like that. I'm like, look at me over here. Excuse me. Gotta get you one of these. Embroidered.
You're only allowed so many whereases a day. That was my quota. All right. Next up, public comments. I just want to remind you that you get 3 minutes. At about 2 minutes and 45 seconds, I'll politely ask you to wrap up your thoughts. There's 2 opportunities to give public comment, right now and at the very end of the meeting. And lastly, we do have a public hearing, so any comments that are directed towards what's on the item for a public hearing, this is not the time to talk about that. That is a separate hearing of itself, and there'll be a separate opportunity for people to comment on the development order on the old Pottery Barn properties. So, without further ado, last time I started over there, this time I'll start over here. Is there anyone that would like to come up and approach a microphone? Don't rush me all at one time. Anyone in the middle that would like to come up, share a thought? Boy, I'm liking this. Oh, here we come. Here we go. 2 for 1? Okay, well, both of you introduce yourselves and your addresses, please. Push a button.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Melvin Boykin. I'm a general manager at Panda Express. This is my training leader, Kyle. So we just wanted to come introduce ourselves to the community. We're opening the new Panda grand opening sometime next week. We just want to say how excited we are to work with the community. Panda is the company that partners with the community fundraisers, great competitive pay wages, community, to way to connect with the community and way to, so for myself personally, I started as a regular associate at Panda, worked my way up, competitive pay, advancement opportunities, we just like to build and grow with the community in everywhere we go. So I opened stores in Mobile, Texas, now we're here in Destin. So we're just here to work with you guys. We want to introduce ourselves and invite you guys all to the grand opening next week. So if you can come out and show your support, we're here to support the community as well.
Well, we're glad you're here. Welcome to the area, and please join our chamber. The CEO is right there, and get you a ribbon cutting set up so we can make sure you get a real grand opening. Welcome.
I already did the spiel this morning with him.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's just a quick second. So my name is Kyle Frenchy. I'm training leader for Panda Express. And once again, I'm very excited to be part of the community, and especially the youth here. If you need support, we will work together as fundraising, and we definitely support also economically with those fundraisings. We want to be part of the community, continue the legacy from our company. And thank you so much for welcoming us, and I will see you soon, hopefully.
See our president, the president of the high school. They could use any help they can from anybody out there, so help them help y'all.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Jimmy Perkins, 748 Benning. 9th to the 15th, we got some special guests coming to town. We got 8 Wounded Warriors, Purple Hearts, 2 Gold Star Mothers, the Marine Corps Recon Foundation. Just looking out for some help. I'm giving them 8 boats for 2 days. Anybody wants to come down, help me get them on the boats. We got severe injuries, single and double amputees, blast injuries, gunshots, severe PTSD, and Marines and sailors. So I would love to have some help. If some of the other people, businesses in the area would like to step up and do something for them, I think, you know, they.
What are the dates
From the 9th to the 15th. They arrive the 9th, they leave on the 15th. I think this Friday or something.
What are the days that they'll be on the boats?
I think it's the 11th and 13th, I've got them on the boats. If anybody wants to step up and give them a sunset, or maybe one of the restaurants, our gentleman's back there, just offer it up to you guys. Maybe they might want to take, it's going to be the 8 Purple Hearts, 2 Gold Star Mothers, and be a total of 25 with their caretakers of everybody. It'll be 25 total. Transportation, anything will help. They're paying their own way, but if we can help them, it helps out a lot. That's my first part. Go ahead. So, okay, anything to help. I put it on Destin Night Cricket, so maybe this might shake the trees a little bit. Second, let's go straight in. You just give your code and compliance an award. It took me 3 weeks to try to get an appointment with her. They told me 3 weeks ago, yeah, she's going to make an appointment with me. Crickets. So finally I went today and told her, look, if I don't get an appointment today, I'm blasting you tonight at the meeting. So right before we got here, they called and said, oh, you can see her Thursday at 1:30. So 53 people we have reported for running illegal businesses in Destin this year. 2 verbal warnings, that's all. I mean, if you bring them to them and say, this person's illegal, that person's illegal, and they look the other way, it makes it kind of hard for a man that's paying all the taxes, doing it the right way. And they're showing up at Joe. I mean, picture after picture, I can show you that they pull in down at Joe's. I stopped down there today and asked the guys running the lot, I said, what's code tell you when they show up and they got Crab Island Cruises written on the side of their pontoons with the telephone numbers? They said, just take the $20, tell them have a good day. So that's what they said. So don't quote me, but that's what they said. So.
And I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead,
Jimmy.
sir.
Are you getting basically the same response out of the law enforcement portion of it too?
Well, the law enforcement cannot do anything. It's code violation. Everything is right here, code violation. If you guys don't stop them, that's what her assistant told me. She's got a meeting in 2 weeks with the sheriffs and the Coast Guard. I said, the sheriff and Coast Guard that have nothing to do. If they get to the water, once they're on the water, if they got all their flotations, they got the paperwork, they're good to go. If you don't stop them in the harbor because they don't have their BTR, they don't have their parking, or if you don't stop them down at the parks or there first, then, they advertise on their website what time they're going to pick people up. The season's over now, so, it's a done deal. But we had 6 meetings, me, you, and everybody, was there. We were going to get them this year. 2 verbal warnings is not getting them. So you guys have a good night, and if I can get some help with my warriors, I would really appreciate it.
Up next, anyone else? Oh, here we go. Threw me a curveball. Showed up for the other side of the room.
Good evening, Mayor and council people. I want to say thank you very, very much for the spirit of cooperation that you guys didn't just talk about at our last meeting, you actually put into action. Lance and Lisa Firth and your team for the city, I commend you because the spirit of cooperation between our head of school for Destin High School, Mrs. Crookshank, and our athletic director, Coach Dorn, I haven't seen them smile that much in a good bit. And just seeing the kids have a lot of hope in their minds and hearts and eyes, and seeing our teams feel like there is something collaborative that's happening between you guys, and getting that interlocal agreement into place so quickly, and you guys continuing to talk about that tonight. I just really want to have an attitude of gratitude with you guys and say thank you. In particular, Teresa, thank you for coming to our school last week. You showed up that very next day. She even bought some Destin High School swag to wear to the football game. Mr. Braden has called this week and is coming on a tour of our campus this week, which really makes me happy. I know we missed out on having his daughter with us as a student, but I know you're really going to like to see what Mrs. Crookshank and Coach Dorn are doing on campus. Bobby's been there a couple of times, so you guys are not just sitting up here doing things that aren't impacting others. You're making a difference in the high school students. And to hear Grace Fountain today speak, I had to take a picture for her mama. To see her and our other students like Breyer and some of the other young folks getting involved in city government really makes me proud. I hope one day they'll run for the office that you guys hold and continue to make a difference on our little beach town. Because as I always say, great things are happening here. It starts with you guys, and now you're challenging these folks to do really good stuff. So thank you for what you've done so far.
Thanks, Heidi. Appreciate it. Anyone else? I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting, and we'll press on. We got a lot of business to do, so let's move on to item 3, the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Ayes have it, so moved. And Lance, you're in the spotlight. Take it away, sir.
Thanks, sir. First up, item 4A is the PAWS contract, and council had pulled this item and asked staff to see what they could do with it. Staff has since reached out to the PAWS group and asked them what they could do to help us help them. They, in turn, have asked us to extend the existing contract by 3 months to give them some more time to see what they can put together in a new proposal for the city of Destin that really meets the amount of time that we're getting from them and the amount of usage that we're getting out of their organization. So I'm asking council to extend the current contract by 3 months. That will put us on a calendar year, which we're trying to get all of our contracts on, and give them time to take a look at this contract and see what they can bring back to us before then.
Mr. Bagby.
Mayor, I move to accept the 90-day extension of the PAWS contract and authorize the city manager to execute the contract while negotiating a future contract accordingly.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Schmidt.
Appreciate it. Do we know what Walton County does for animal control services?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
The sheriff's office? Walton County Sheriff? Okay. I would like, and I support the motion to extension because we do need to extend it to look into us a little bit further, but I would personally like to know some other areas, maybe reach out to the 4 leagues of cities to get some more ideas about what people do in regards to animal control services. Just using our nearby cities with one provider who's typically been the only one that's provided it to us, I'd like to see a greater reach. I don't want to get into the services of animal control either, but I also want to understand more details about the deal. For example, what is a call for service? Are they bringing the animal back every time? Sometimes, half the time, 10% of the time? How many times? There's 200 and something calls last year, but what does that mean? I think it'd be kind of vital to have a little bit more details on that. That'd be my request, please.
Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I talked with staff on some ideas. I would just ask that I think the direction you're headed, making it a per service as opposed to a per population, is the right direction. And so if you need any help, let me know. I'm glad to go talk to the Walton County Sheriff, but I think y'all can probably work something out with these folks that is fair and equitable to the citizens of this community. Thank you.
Mr. Wagner.
No, I was just going to commend Councilman Schmidt. That was good eyes on this contract. I think we can save some money here for everyone. So thank you.
Question, staff. Is there any municipalities in Okaloosa County that have their own animal control department?
Crestview did bring theirs. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. When Crestview received the same type of offer, they opted out of the contract and opted to start their own animal control division.
Okay, so they're the only ones? All right. That's a FYI question, so everybody could kind of figure that out. I don't think our sheriff's department wants animal control business. All right, well, I have a motion, I have a second. Let's take it to a vote. If there's no further comment, seeing none. Ayes have it, so moved.
Next up, we have acquisition of property for the Crosstown Connector. This piece of property is located on Benning. It did come before council one previous time, a few meetings back, when it, at that point, required a supermajority. It did get a majority vote, but did not obtain the supermajority. Since that time, we have entered back into negotiations, and we have settled on a lower price now that is at or below the appraised value, so we only need a normal majority for this vote to move it forward. So I would recommend that we do that, as we will need this to complete that project.
And it's $50,000 less too, Teresa.
Mayor, I move that the city council approve purchase of the vacant land at the corner of Anna Street and Benning Drive and authorize city managers to execute the purchase agreement and proceed with the closing.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Is there any discussion on this matter? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved. Lance?
Thanks, sir. Next up, we have a very preliminary harbor study data report for the council in your packet. And we do have Mr. Zanguzzi and Ms. Kopp here to answer any questions that you might have.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I think the report speaks for itself. Just three things to note here from me. One is that no action is intended tonight on your part. And then the second issue to note is that I will be receiving a full draft report end of December, early January, which will contain all the aspects that we need to be reviewing. The third thing is that, as you know, the moratorium on this item will be up for review at the end of December. Hopefully at that time you'll have something to work with before deciding whether to extend the moratorium or not. That's all I have for you this evening.
Not unless you have questions.
I just want to make a statement. The intent, when the Harbor Board made this recommendation in 2016, and his council, whoever, I can't remember who was on there in 2017, when they instituted the first moratorium on any more proliferation of livery vessels in the Destin Harbor, the intent was they saw a need that there was these livery vessels were taking up slips that traditionally had been held by charter and commercial fishermen. And so they wanted to get a handle on it. And this report says what it says, and it tells us nothing that we didn't already really know. The only details we don't have is the information on the parking issue and stuff like that, which we'll get in the full report. But I would really like to fish for a motion that I think it's been 6 years since we've had the moratorium. The businesses that were there 6 years ago are still here. They're still in business. They're still profitable. They're still doing well. The intent was to really protect the heritage of this community, which was fishing, and not become the luckiest or the largest livery rental village in the world. That we don't have to change that sign coming in from the west going to east. Welcome to Destin, the luckiest fishing village in the world. So I think it's time that we just instruct staff to put together an ordinance to make the moratorium permanent. It will bring more intrinsic value to the businesses that have already been operating on the moratorium. It increases their worth because they're in a limited access program, just like the charter industry is. There's only 1,229 federal permitted charter boats. 120 of them are in Destin. There's never going to be any more in the Gulf, though there may be some more come to Destin if there were actually some slips available for them to run their operations out of, which there are none at this time. So as a fisherman and mayor, I think it's high time that we settle this issue once and for all. I think the preliminary report tells us what we already knew. It'll confirm and give us legal precedence to make a temporary moratorium permanent. And I can't make motions, but I'd sure entertain one to make it, to direct them to begin to put the ordinance together. I spoke with a couple of the industry reps today, and they'll have 2 opportunities to come before and make public comment because we have a first and second reading of any ordinance. And, but I think it's time for us to start that. And so those are my comments. Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Mayor. I kind of agree with you, but I believe we're going to get some more information in January. Is that correct, staff?
That's correct.
And what's that information going to be?
The complete report will include analysis. It will include the parking and the environmental impacts. Right now, what you have is kind of the raw data on the boats and the vessels.
I'm not against a permanent moratorium, I'll be honest with you, but I like to have all my facts together before I take that action. So I'm going to make a motion to direct staff to bring back a 6-month temporary extension of the moratorium at the very next meeting, because one of the things, as I discussed with staff today when I met with them, was I don't want this in November and I don't want it in December. I don't want it to look like we were hiding this action in the holidays when everybody was focused on something else. So I want the first hearing in October and then the second hearing in November, so everybody has their chance to come up and say, because when I read the numbers, I knew it was large, but I didn't know it was that large. I don't live down there like the mayor does and like some of the council members do. But I'm not ready to go permanent yet. I'll just be honest with you. I probably will be after reading the preliminary, but I want to make sure everybody has all the facts before we make it a permanent thing. So I'll make a motion that we do a temporary 6-month extension of the moratorium until June 30th, 2023.
And just to clarify, I'm sorry, just from a legal perspective, I know this is your intent, but for the city clerk, I understand your motion to mean that we will prepare an ordinance, which we will
Yes.
advertise first reading
Yes.
for the next meeting, so.
Yes.
Yes.
Schedule the first reading of the ordinance to extend the moratorium for 6 months and advertise it for the next meeting.
We have a motion and we have a second, and we got, I think everybody wants to speak, so I'll just start with Mr. Braden, work our way down. Mr. Braden, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a little disturbing that on the chart that on a total entry and exit on a regular weekend by vessel category, that a non-motorized recreational craft, well, start over, a sailboat was the least. Non-motorized recreational craft was the next small line on the graph. The next was fishing charter vessels. So fishing charter vessels rank up there with the sailboat, the amount of sailboats, and I guess paddle boards. It's a non-motor recreational craft. The majority, the largest on the graph, over 5,000, is livery pontoon vessels, and the next is personal vessels. And on the total entry and exit on a holidays by vessels, personal vessels are the most at around 10,000. The next is livery vessels. It just disturbing to me that charter boats are way, I mean, they barely even come off the scale. They're down there with the sailboats and
My point exactly.
paddle boards, I guess, and kayaks. That's pretty sad. But anywho, with that said, I really don't think it's right that we hold our guys that are doing it legal, hold their feet to the fire if they can meet their requirements for the parking requirements, what the city requires on all the requirements, that if they can have one more vessel or 2 more vessels, they have all the parking and the necessary requirements, that they can have that. They shouldn't be held to this moratorium any longer, just my opinion, if they can add one more boat. I think that our focus should be more on catching the illegals down there at Joe's Bayou. I went down there one time. I was notified of an illegal charter going on. I drove down there, asked the woman did they charter those kayaks? Yeah, that's our guide right there. Called code compliance, they came down there. So I went down there one time and busted one guy. So I don't know why they can't do it. Anyhow, I'd like to amend the motion or to allow the delivery vessel owners that have our license in Destin, if they can meet the requirements to add a vessel or two to their fleet, that it's possible.
I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, if I understand what you're saying,
Purpose of the moratorium in the first place.
so you're saying, I believe, that you would like the existing legally registered livery vessels to be able to add up to 1 or 2 vessels to their existing fleet? So add to their numbers, or am I misunderstanding?
That is correct. I wouldn't put a number on it, I mean, because I would think if we don't have the parking to start with anywhere, I mean, I don't know how they got the amount of vessels in the harbor we have now with the parking that we don't have.
Well, what we could do, and this is really in the discretion of council, but what staff could do is come back at the next meeting with an ordinance extending the moratorium, and then if you all want to make changes to it, we could discuss it that night when all of the public is here. Would that help?
Yeah, I'm just thinking because their application, I think, is supposed to be renewed in November, December.
Yeah, that's when the time begins. And I think they have until March. Right? Yes.
So if the moratorium passed and they couldn't add a boat or two to their fleet, if they meet the requirements, they'd be locked in for a whole nother year because they couldn't.
If the moratorium is extended 6 months, as the initial motion was, then they would not be able to add another vessel for 6 months. However, again, you would have 2 readings, so it's not like going to start until the current moratorium expires. So it would go until June 30th.
So if they did get their application in for 20 boats, and then after 6 months, the moratorium's lifted, if that's the case, and then they decided they wanted to add 2 more boats and met the requirements, they could do so at that time. They wouldn't have to wait till
Yeah,
following November, December, whenever.
Yeah, if the moratorium is lifted and they meet code requirements, then they could add vessels when the moratorium is lifted. Right now, of course, they cannot. But as of right now, even when they fill out their applications, they will be under the existing moratorium. So they could not add boats this year. It does not expire until December 31st.
So if they had put their application in, say in November, and they're approved in December, then that's telling me that they can't add any more boats until the following year before they put their application back in.
That's right. Right now, that's why you have the moratorium now, so that they would not be adding vessels unless it's changed.
So if they've already been approved and have their application approved and everything for the next year, if the moratorium goes till 6 months, till April or whatever it is, they still won't be able to add any more vessels until the following year.
If the moratorium is extended, that's correct. Now, if it's not extended after December 31st, they could come back for an amendment and request additional vessels, at which time it would be reviewed if they get it in prior to March, and it would be reviewed to see if it meets code. But if the moratorium is extended as it currently is now, they would not be able to add vessels.
Okay. I'm kind of like Jim. I'd like to get something done, whatever it is, and not do it in the holidays when people are out of town, and I don't think we're doing something sneaky. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The jet skis, are they subcategorized as rental and recreational personal vessels?
They are livery vessels.
All the jet skis are livery? All right, thank you. And then to Councilman Braden's point, I think the parking will come through the data as well, and we'll know exactly how many more vessels companies have the ability to raise if the moratorium was lifted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't have a problem with directing staff to bring back the 6 month, because after all, we will not have the full study and and will not have the nexus we need to defend our ordinance till then. But as is, this is agended only as an information item. It'll take 5 votes to do it. And the other observation I'm going to make, I've been involved in a number of moratoriums on fishing licenses, and the charter boat people have moratoriums. Moratorium means you don't give out anymore. If you do, then it's not a real moratorium.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, and the other problem I have is, it appears to me that that would create equal protection under the law issues, that we are going to allow some people to have more, and the other guys who don't have the benefit of having been in business, I can see it's very problematic, but we can certainly listen to it, and our learned attorneys can tell us if there's any way legally to do it, and then we have to see if it's the right thing to do. But, saying bring it back for 6 months, I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be clear, this is an administrative direction to have them bring it back. It wasn't a motion to, let's discuss what the report is in the report. I don't even want to talk about the report. It's just to have them bring back a moratorium or a 6-month extension so that we can have the discussion in a properly noticed public hearing with everybody who owns a boat in this town in the chamber in October and in November, not in December. And I agree with Mr. Destin, equal protection is, you can't give one guy 1 space or one lady 2 spaces or whatever and tell the other people, no, that's why we're going to have the hearings. My vision is we extend this 6 months, but it may not last 6 months. Once we have all the data and I have a chance to read all the data, I'll be ready to make a decision. But until we get everything and hear from people affected, then I think we just ought to extend this. And I'm saying 6 months, but if we have everything, we may end it in March, or we may make it permanent in March. And so that was the only purpose, was an administrative direction to the staff was my motion.
Thank you, Mayor. And based on what has been previously stated, I'm not going to be ad nauseum and repeat it, but I agree, just do a 6-month administrative hold till we get more data.
Thank you, Dewey, for bringing up the 2 issues you brought up.
Yeah.
That the whole purpose of the moratorium is defeated if you're going to rewrite an ordinance that's going to make the moratorium permanent, except. And that can't take place. I don't get to vote and I don't get to make motions. I do respect Jim's motion, though, even though I'm slightly disagree with it, not completely, because that is the right way to go. If I had my druthers, it would be a permanent moratorium. I've spoke with the industry representatives, and in deference to what Jimmy brought up, when you do something like that as a legislative action, it is a pursuant upon those that have done that legislative action to protect the people that they are legislating over. And he's brought up that we have not done a very good job of that up to this point. It's been an issue in the charter for hire industry. We have the same problem at the federal level and state level of illegal charter operators. It's not going to go away, but there are ways for us to control it. And if we're going to maintain our heritage and do so with a permanent moratorium on livery vessels that is pursuant to us to make sure that we protect those businesses that have been regulated. And so that's going to be something that I'm sure everyone will discuss, and there'll be more emphasis in maybe the next ordinance about stronger penalties that our code can enforce for illegal operators within our city. Because if this moratorium is made permanent, which is my desire, then that is a special privilege for these owners, but at the same time, we want them to be successful. That moratorium's been in effect for 6 years, and these guys are still in business, and they're doing really well. And we got to make sure that they continue to stay in business and do really well. So it'll be upon us to help protect them from people that don't want to play by the rules. Mr. King.
Thank you, sir. I would echo the same thing, and I couldn't support anybody adding any boats at this time. I think like you said, the purpose of the moratorium is to, we wanted to see what the Corps of Engineers had to say about this, and these numbers are really disheartening. I mean, we all kind of knew what it was going to be, especially those of us who spend time on the water. I happen to be one of these numbers on here. I remember I was driving by, and yeah, I was on my paddleboard, and I was driving a boat, and I see these guys set up in a tent, and they're diligently counting boats, and I didn't know it was going to be like this. But I think the scary thing about it is it's not that we don't have enough charter boats. I think that some of these other boats or these other vessels are just wildly inflated right now. So that's my stance on it. Could not support adding any more boats. I think if one of our initiatives is to attract a different clientele, this moratorium does the same exact thing that the federally permanent charter boats are under. And it's the most expensive place in the world to go fishing. And these guys are still fishing every day, so.
It works.
Yeah, I would say, I want to see I'm with Mr. Bagby, I want to see the rest of the results in detail and go from there, but I would fully support a permanent moratorium.
Appreciate it. Can you remind me, the moratorium, was it new businesses as well as new vessels to current businesses?
At the time the moratorium was put in place, it was if you are an existing business, you are allowed to continue operating, but you cannot add
Right.
vessels. You can also not start a new business.
Right.
Now, if you're an existing business and you want to transfer your vessels to a new business, you can, because it doesn't cause an increase in vessels in the water.
Yeah, I mean, one, I wish we would have had something more on the agenda to have public people, here to talk about this tonight. Obviously, there's 2 hearings and an ordinance, I get that, and they'll have their chance, but still, it would have been nice to have people. My concerns are, we have 4 meetings left before it expires, so time is of essence, including the holidays during that time period, which is going to be tough. But the other issue that I have is, one, as somebody mentioned, I mean, if a current owner who has their medallions could legally have 5 more vessels because they have parking, they have all of that, a permanent moratorium will hinder those current owners. But at the same time, it's like, why do some of these current rule followers even want to follow the rules anymore and even worry about a moratorium, because they could just keep adding boats all day long, I mean, I'm proud that they're doing it. They're doing it the right way, but there's people that continue to fight this and break the rules. A 6-month moratorium is going to hurt the people that are already in business. And it will, it'll hurt them to have the opportunity to grow their business if they could. That's where it'll hurt them. I'm not saying they're not doing good. They are doing good. But also, I think there's a lot of details that we should look at about the regulations and requirements and enforcement, because it's just, there's more to it. I mean, almost 2 years to the day, we started this conversation when some of us first set up here, and then the new council is about to have the same exact thing 2 years later be their first agenda item again. And we've talked about code enforcement, talked about all that, and it's just, we got to find a different way to solve the problem.
All right. I was going to take it to vote, but Mr. Braden looks like he wants to make another comment. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. Jimmy, how many complaints was called in? Yeah, and you said there was only 2 verbal warnings?
Have to come to the mic so the clerk can get.
Yeah.
You found 53 and only 2 verbal warnings were issued, correct?
2 verbal warnings, that's it, out of 53 that was turned over to them. And you can go down there all day long and just sit there and point. I've been down there with code enforcement, say, well, how do I know they're illegal charter? Let's see, there's 11 girls in pink bathing suit and 1 in a white, and they're paying that guy right there. I don't know, how do you know? Yeah, so if they can't stop that, and that guy's there every day, and that's his family and friends, come on.
Yeah, that's an issue, but you can't. That doesn't justify not having a moratorium on our
I'll
livery
just add
vessels.
one thing. So the moratorium, if you extend it 6 months, that means when the information comes in January, you can take that information and creating a permanent moratorium is one of your options, but your other options include changing, modifying regulations. I'm not telling you to do that or not, but you have options once you get the information with how to handle it.
Thank you. All right, well, let's go ahead and take this.
I'm just saying that was my point to
Yes.
Kevin's comment, that, you know, he's saying that the people are doing it right. You know, why wouldn't you just add 2 or 3 more boats to your fleet? Because there's a 2% chance maybe you might get caught, and if you do, they're going to tell you you shouldn't do that? A verbal warning? So what I'm saying is the problem, I think, lies here, you know?
Yeah, but to say 2 or 3 boats, that opens up a whole nother can of worms.
And it defeats the whole idea of a moratorium in the first place. So there's 2 arguments there to it. Your argument is
Say
valid.
we need to get involved with the people that are doing it illegal.
That's correct. Absolutely, 100%. And that's, like you said, that's up to this council to dictate to our code people that this is a zero tolerance policy. All right, so let's just go ahead. We have a motion. Let's take this to a vote because this is going to be talked about for the next 2 meetings. And it's going to give the industry representatives and business owners all the opportunity they need to give their 2 cents. Some of them will disagree with me. Some of them don't, because I've already talked to a lot of them. So let's take this to a vote. We have a motion and a second. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Press it on. Lance.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we've got the Morgan Sports Center Barracuda Field interlocal agreement. And did want to say thanks to Christine and to Phil, also to Lockwood and Monica for making this a very easygoing process. And I think we have arrived at a good agreement here. So appreciate it. Also, the board members from the school, I appreciate that. And of course, Lisa back there, who's been behind it the whole time. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the interlocal agreement between the Destin High School, Destin Water Users, and the City of Destin for use of Barracuda Field as a high school baseball field.
Second.
I got a motion, I have a second. I already hit the button to vote, but does anyone have anything they'd like to add? Are you guys ready to vote? We've had a lot of discussion on this one, so let's take a vote. The vote is unanimous. Go Sharks.
Woo-hoo! And Diana has taken your logo and turned it into embroidery. I paid for it. It's $8 for any embroidered Destin High School logo at her shop for any clothing item you want. It's nice, isn't it? The name you have to pay extra for.
Thank you, council, for that vote. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Kyle and Kim were right in the middle of this too and pushing this forward, so.
You can be
They were helping us out a lot. So a few announcements. This past Saturday, the derelict vessel, I believe is just off the shoreline from Harbor Docks, was finally removed. I want to throw out some thanks to our friends at the county for helping us get rid of that boat. On October the 4th and 5th, there will still be collections for hurricane relief supplies at our Marlar parking lot. There's a semi out there for those days collecting goods to be taken down to the victims of the hurricane. On October 7, 8, and 9, we've got our Destin Seafood Festival kicking off, and the weather's predicted to be fantastic, so we'll finally have another good showing for our seafood festival. October the 10th, we will have our first Columbus Day holiday celebrated as a city, so our city facilities will be closed on Monday, October the 10th, which is a week from today. On October 11th, 3 p.m., we have the Blue Star dedication at our Destin Library. I believe the mayor and Representative Maney will be there to do the honors. So anyone that's open to the public, so I would appreciate anyone who can make it there to make it over there. And on October 19th, We have a joint town center CRA, harbor CRA workshop to discuss undergrounding of utilities. So that'll be in this room. So if you have time to come by and share your thoughts on that, we would appreciate the public's input on that too. And a final sad note for myself is Dot Jones, a longtime volunteer for the city of Destin, from the community center to committees to all kinds of things in our city, passed away. So she will be sorely missed. So our thoughts and prayers go out to her family. That's all, sir.
Up next, Kyle, this is your show.
Thank you, Mayor. This time we have 2249 SP. This is Tom Murray of Windcrest Development Group, Inc., on behalf of Shanree Holdings Corporation, requesting approval of a major development order. Proposed project consists of redevelopment of the existing downtown Destin shopping center. All existing buildings, pavement, and most of the existing utilities will be demolished and removed. Construction for the new development includes plus or minus 69,000 square foot grocery anchored shopping center with new associated parking and internal drive aisle sidewalks, landscaping, utilities, and an expansion of the existing stormwater management retention pond. With that, I just asked, starting with Kevin, if we see if we've had any ex parte communications on the matter. Go ahead, Kevin.
I have not. None, sir.
I have not.
None, sir.
None.
None.
I have not.
And thank you, Council and Mayor. And if members of staff and members of the applicant, any member of the public who plans on testifying, could please stand and raise your right hand. I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? Hearing you all confirm that, I will turn things over to Ms. Kopp.
Thanks. I would like to enter into the record the city's composite Exhibit A, which is the staff report and all attachments, if the applicant doesn't object.
Any objection? Seeing no objection, it is entered.
Okay, then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steve O'Connor to do the city's introduction, and then after that, the applicant can speak.
Good evening, Council. We are here finally after lots of talk about this property. And I'll just do a very high-level review of the proposal, but I do want to make note of a couple of changes that were made to the draft development order. That was provided to Council earlier today, an update in the parking count from 302 to 320. I'll chalk that up to my dyslexia from time to time. And then an update to the access management or the access points for the project. The signalized intersections were switched around, so that was updated with the draft development order. Given that, this project proposes a approximately 61,000 square foot grocery store with a 2,800 square foot liquor store and 2,400 2,400 square foot retail space in conjunction with this development. They are proposing to basically raise the entire site to ground level and develop only a portion, about 11 plus acres, for this anchored grocery store, and then the remaining 8 plus acres will remain undeveloped at this time. With that, the project does meet the LDC with the exception of the parking requirement. As you all know, this is the old MMTD, the old Destin MMTD, and we do have parking maximums. That parking maximum is 276, and they are providing 320. But as we all know, parking in this general area is a problem, and so they're alleviating that by providing more. Beyond that, the submitted site plans, that you have in your packet do show a cutoff of access to one vacant parcel in between the 2 access points on Highway 98. We heard from that particular property owner about their concerns. Staff worked with the applicants to alleviate that, and the presentation that the applicant will show tonight does show access to that vacant lot with a proposed or an improved access point with curbing and hard surface. So that has been alleviated, and that is also one of the conditions of approval that staff provided. Beyond that, it meets the comprehensive plan and the land development code minus the parking. And so that I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, great. Oh, much better. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jennifer Lacerdo. I'm with Genesis Engineering Collaborative. We're the civil engineer for this project. I'm joined by Mr. Tom Murray and Craig Buchanan with Windcrest Development Group. We are really excited about presenting this project to you guys today for approval for a major development order. I first want to thank Steve and all of the city staff for continued communication with our team. It has been integral to be able to get you a package that you can look at and hopefully approve tonight. So really quickly, we concur with staff. We're very excited that there is an approval from staff on this, but I have just a few slides that I wanted to address a few things. So can you guys see the aerial photo? Oh, great, perfect. Okay, so I've outlined our site. It's about 20 acres in the red boundary. That site today is about 90% impervious coverage, 90% pavement, buildings, 10% grass and trees. We have 3 separate buildings totaling just about 200,000 square feet existing. Went by the site today, and part of the facade is in disrepair. So we're excited about scraping the entire thing and bringing back something new and lively. So if you can go to the next, I have the thing. Sorry. Did that go? Yes, okay. This is a color rendered site plan, as you can see after development. We have the grocery anchored store along with the liquor and retail. You'll see we are doing this is in phases. So phase 1 is the grocery anchored center with the parking and the access changes. The green space you'll see is what we call the remainder tract, and that will be developed at a later time. As far as access goes, let's see. See, too many buttons, people. Okay, zoomed in version of our site plan. We have a signalized entrance that's shared with the post office on the north side off of Main Street. In the center access, the front drive, you'll see that we have additional new sidewalk at Main Street. That's a right-in, right-out access that's been closed. So it's currently today a right-in, right access, and we're going to close it, add our sidewalk connection to the front of the shopping center. That sidewalk connection will come across the front of the shopping center and to the remainder tract that you see there on the western side. Up front on Harbor Boulevard, we have 2 existing access points that are going to remain. On the main entry at the center of the picture, you'll see our main entry. Currently today, it has 2 entry lanes and 2 exiting lanes. We've reduced the entry lane to just 1 single lane, and that has given us a chance to add some green space and sidewalk. The sidewalk will continue north into the site and will take a turn to the west, going along the back side of those out parcels that you see there that are existing and leading again to the remainder tract. The sidewalk will then go north and connect back to the shopping center. So we've got a full circular pedestrian travelway there. Speaking to the point of the existing out parcel that we had closed off entry connection to, this is an updated site plan screenshot of that entry drive that we've added. It is if you're looking at the back section, it's the middle drive, the second one in the center. We've aligned that with our drive aisle. It's a 2-way access. We did not know that this was needed to be an access, and I share with you a few pictures of existing conditions. It does not look like a code compliant access way, which is why we did not provide them one. As you can see, these pictures are from several months ago, but I went there today, it still is a dirt drive. We ask that the property owner be held to code to have a hard surface driveway connection. We will give them the driveway connection on our property, but we need a hard surface connection for them. The bottom picture, it's really hard to see. It is inside that inlet that you see in the asphalt there. You can barely see the top of the metal pipe. It is completely filled with sand. Take that for what you will. We are going to be installing all new infrastructure on the site, and we need that infrastructure to be maintained properly by all out parcels that will discharge to it. So we ask that the city help us to enforce that once the driveway connections are made. And that concludes. Oh, no, it doesn't. Sorry, just kidding. I always forget about the building. So the building, this is the elevation of the grocery, as you can see, Publix. And we are excited to show this with all the different materials. Standing seam metal roof, painted stucco, hardy plank, painted as wood. And then this is an elevation of the retail and the liquors. Any questions? Again, we concur with staff. We're excited about the project. And I'm here, and Tom is here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, Mr. Schmidt.
Actually, should we let the public thing?
No, she just wanted to know if anybody had any questions.
Sure. Yeah, a couple questions. Based on the phases, based on a comment that Steve said, it's going to be filled into ground level? Like, does that mean it's being raised up or something? And
So the entire site will be scraped.
Scraped.
All buildings will be removed, all pavement will be removed. We are going to put in new infrastructure, stormwater. A lot of the sanitary sewer will stay, but we'll put in new water infrastructure as well.
is that for the whole 18, 20 acres, or is that still in phases?
No, that will be, the entire site will be raised. So going back to our color rendered, when the store opens, what we call the remainder tract is there in green. That will be seeded, grassed, until another developer
Gotcha.
comes
So
down.
even though it's a different phase, the whole thing is being
Yes,
raised
that's
and
correct.
grazed and all that? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And then, am I able to ask, depending on what happens tonight, like any timeline that's already thought about, or is that?
So construction closing would happen next year?
Yeah, we're looking sometime about May of next year closing and, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, Tom Murray with Windcrest Development Group, and we're looking at closing on the property, Publix's, sometime around May and next year. And, that's given the existing tenants and all that time to move out and all that. And it'll take about a year to construct the whole site. So we're looking at, May of '24 to be open.
That was it, my only questions. Thank you all very much. Excited.
And thank you, Mayor. So you're, basically, the tenants that are currently in there, they're all going to be gone within a year and a half from now, or almost 2 years. So it's your May of '24 is when groundbreaking begins?
No, May of '23 will be when groundbreaking.
Okay, good.
May
Okay.
'24 will be open.
Open, got it.
Ballpark.
That's great.
Yes.
That's clarification. That's what I was trying to figure out is, okay, because I knew there was already a couple of businesses that had been given their leasing and they were out, but I knew there were several others, and I just wasn't sure what there was timeline. So thank you. That's great information and great presentation. Excited.
Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. This is one parcel, am I correct? I mean, you're dividing it up, but
It is currently three, and we will turn it into two parcels. One we call the grocery tract, which is the 11 and change, and the remainder tract is close to 9.
okay, so it's mixed use in the comp plan? All of it, some of it?
The entire site is Town Center Mixed-Use Comprehensive Designation.
Okay, so my question is, on this parcel that we're developing, where's the mixed use?
If you're referring to the ordinance that requires the commercial aspect, that only applies to multifamily. And so the mixed-use aspect is the multiple retail type of uses that would apply here.
So it doesn't include the...
It does not have residential as another mixed use as part of this development proposal.
Okay, let me ask another question, and it has to do with the parking, of course. You guys are being smart by putting more parking in. The last time I developed a piece of property, I was told my maximum number of spaces was 32, and that didn't mean 33. How do you go about, you don't need a variance, you just put in parking that's more than the maximum amount?
Since the project is coming here for the city council, you have the ability to either refer the matter to the Board of Adjustment, or you can give that to yourself because it's part of the comprehensive plan requirement.
That's a new alternative. Okay, and by the way, that maximum parking is one of the dumbest code revisions we ever made. So I'm glad to see there's a way around it. And you're gonna, on Main Street, you're closing off both those entrances that are now, or just one, or none?
No, sir. Today there are three.
Yep.
There's a signalized.
The light and the other two.
There's the right in,
right.
right out, and a full access. The right in, right out in the center is the one that's going to be closed.
Okay, so you're leaving the light?
Yes.
And you're leaving the one to the south?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What else did I scribble down here? And you are taking down the theater in the back, correct? All right, I don't have any other
Yes, sir.
questions, thanks.
Mr. King?
I just wanted to say, as somebody who was born and raised using this piece of property and seeing what it's gone to and what you guys are proposing is a wonderful thing. So I think it's going to revitalize what we're trying to do in that part of Destin. I had a question about the green space. You said it would be a grass area until another developer comes in. Did you have an idea of what kind of other developer that might be?
Not right now. Publix is working on that.
Okay.
But we don't know.
Well, wonderful job. This thing looks awesome. We're excited.
We appreciate that.
My only concern about the parking deal is when you look at Target across the street, they don't use all the parking they have. A lot of their parking is just empty. It's a nice parking lot for people with RVs that don't want to pay to go to an RV park. So I have a little bit of a question about that, because it would seem to me that if you did the parking that is by code, that we could utilize more green space. My vision, for that place is to be more than just a shopping center, but at minimum, I was hoping it would look something like Grand Boulevard does, with a lot of trees and green islands and stuff like that. And I don't see that many in the plan. I saw that there was 48 more trees than is required by the deal, but it's still a lot of that's asphalt. And aesthetically, I'd like to see a little more. Just especially if that phase 2 goes in a different route. There's been talk about a Destin City Center, something like that. I was hoping that Publix would be more along the Grand Boulevard mode when it comes to their parking areas, and want to incorporate the possibility of bringing residential and/or some other type of activities in that area, and not just another place that looks like Target across the street. And so I was a little disappointed in that aspect of it, and that's something that maybe we could talk about after the fact, after the council votes for it. It is far and above better than what we have now, so I'll admit that first and foremost. I was just, one of the things about our community is we're at the cusp is, this place was kind of haphazardly put together for 35, 40 years. We don't have any historical districts, so I was hoping that all the new development would bring a different flair, raise the standard and make things look a lot nicer. I was driving around Target and Hobby Lobby, and their greenery has been neglected and looks crappy, and it's not really what the whole community look like. So, when you talk to your bosses, maybe that's some stuff that you could address or talk about in the future. The staff recommends that the council approves this, and I don't see any other reason why they wouldn't, outside of that parking. I really wish that if we stuck to the parking that's required by code, that could be generated into more islands between parking areas and stuff like that. All that asphalt's just bothersome to me. But I know you're gonna have a better system to get the runoff to the right places. So that's just my 2 cents worth. And we got Mr. Wagner.
Well, I appreciate you taking my thunder. No, that's exactly where I was going to go with. Thank you guys for coming into our this area and building this place up. For 18 years, I've seen it sit there and not do much, so I appreciate you finally coming along and being the ones that want to work with us. I do too. I'm hoping, God willing, I'm going to be here 50 years, and I really want to see this be a town center that people want to walk, bike, drive their cars to, and really feel like the village of Destin. And for me, we've had some visioning workshops, and I think people are very excited to see what Phase 2 and 3 can be, especially if we can work together. So I appreciate you guys coming in. This will be a great asset for our town center, and I look forward to really cooperatingly moving forward with you guys for Phase 2 and 3. I think it's not your all's fault that we didn't have a vision ready for you when you guys did come in, so I think we're going to catch up to you, and we're going to hopefully be walking side by side with you into Phase 2 and 3. Thank you.
Mr. Bagby?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure the staff doesn't have any issues in supporting their request. I heard, I think, 2 requests from Jennifer. The connect to tell the adjacent property owner it's got to be a hard surface road, and everybody that's putting water into the system that they're putting in maintains that system or maintains their part of the system. So do we have any problem enforcing that with the adjacent property owners? Because if you do, you need to talk tonight.
No, we do not. As a matter of fact, we have been in touch with the property owner in question, and they're aware of what the issues will be.
Okay, good. See, we're all one big happy family. Not every night, but tonight is an exception. So so far, so good. Everybody has a vision up here. You know, my vision would be, it would be more like your Charlotte store, and think an urban setting where we do have a town center. You're right, you're bringing in, I heard the mayor, you're bringing in Grand Boulevard, you're just not bringing in Grand Boulevard. You're bringing in your store that's in Grand Boulevard, it looks a lot like it. And so if there's something we can do to help you or to help Publix or on the development of that other parcel or build above the parking lot to where we could get an urban center type store. I know this is a little large. I think the one you put in Charlotte was only like 18,000 square feet or something. I heard you may be putting one in St. Augustine downtown or something. Go ahead. You look like you're ready to talk, Tom. Well, but my vision would be to build the anchor. It's an anchor store, but to build a town center with multi-family, with a true multi-use part, at least start this on these 2 parcels and then expand it, we can expand it out from there and use this as a model. And then we could go to Target and say, hey, if you put some condos or homes or whatever up above your parking lot, you'd have a lot more customers or whatever. And Publix would have a lot more customers. But that would be my vision for the town center. But we got 8, counting the mayor. We got 8 different visions up here. But I would like, you have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. And all we want to know is how we can help us build that town center. But as long as the staff's going to make sure that everything you need is there, I'm happy tonight.
Mr. Braden?
Thank you, Mayor. Dewey might help me with this one, but wasn't back in the early 1980s where Target's at, wasn't that a Del Champs or a First, and then there was a Winn-Dixie there, and now it's Target. So all that pavement didn't come there with Target, because back in 1982 or 3, I dug most of those holes that those palm trees are in because my father was in the landscaping business. So I remember that parking lot very well. And another thing is that I agree with the mayor as far as the green space. I like to see more, but that problem lies up here on the dais. We need to change the comp plan at LDC if we want to see that. And also, I agree with the shopping centers with the green space looks horrible. I guess that problem lies up here as well. Maybe that's something we can do. I don't know if we can or not. Maybe a big change or a lot to do to make that, hold them accountable for their landscaping. But thank you so much. It's a great plan. We've been hearing about it a long time and been cheering you on the whole time. So thank you so much.
No, we appreciate that. And I mean, this is going to be a Publix-owned store, corporate store, which they have maintenance groups and all that. So it's not like, a build-a-suit store. It will be a Publix-owned store, which they have high quality.
Yeah, that's good to know. I got Mr. Destin up next, and then I'll come back to you, Jim. Or would you? No, we haven't, we can do public, I plan on doing the public hearing. We haven't we're not having a discussion. There was a question period for the people standing up here. There is no motion made, and I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was really a question and answer.
That's
of
right, it's
Public
question and
presentation.
answer, so.
Jim's right, before discussion, generally, you're supposed to close the presentation of evidence with the public hearing.
Well, I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions, and I've done that. Anyone have any more questions for these folks? Well, Mr. Destin does. Another question.
I'm just a little confused on mixed use. So mixed use can be all commercial? Can it also be all residential?
So when we talk about the mixed-use district, we're really looking at the district, and the district is a mix of different uses. You can have residential, you can have commercial, and of course, we have a requirement where when you have a residential use, we require a certain amount of commercial, but we don't have the vice versa. So when you have commercial, we don't require residential. But when you look at the district as a whole, it's mixed.
Just a simple question. If you go piece by piece in your district, at what point do you say, well, it's going to be all commercial and it's not going to be mixed use at all?
And we leave that to you all. When it comes to council, you all will look at it and make the determination.
Well, then we have the. Yeah. Just theoretically. Theoretically, then we're supposed to keep track of what's going in the district, and when it reaches whatever standard we have?
No, you don't have to keep track. If you have those questions, staff can answer them and can provide the information. In fact, we've been doing counts amongst ourselves as to the different uses in the district for these reasons, but I don't know if Lewis has anything to add, but that's generally how we have it, and we're doing the counts of how much of various uses we have.
With all due respect, that would probably be information we'd be interested in.
Is that, you done? Hey, what we're going to do then is, unless anyone has any further questions, we're going to go ahead and excuse you from the acquisition, and you can sit down. Thank you for bringing your project for our consideration, and we'll sort some of these other questions out in the coming days. I do have one question. On the timeline, is this site approval important for getting the contract done?
Yes.
Because it's kind of, I mean, it looks like you guys are all in and you don't even own the property yet. So that was a little.
Tonight's the night.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just want that on the public record. All right. So this is a public hearing, and we've had our question and answer period. We have no motion. We can have a discussion after that motion is made, everyone. Is anyone here would like to come to the microphone, and I'm going to open the public comment period of this public hearing on this proposal 22-49-SP. Anyone? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment portion of the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion at this time. Ms. Abear.
I move that City Council approve Project 2249 SP, Publix Grocery, a major development order as presented, and with the following condition: that provide improved access to parcel 002S220000-0011-008B, centered between the existing access points of the adjacent properties.
So moved.
Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Just a couple quick things. One, the 20 parking spaces that you mentioned. I mean, if you look closely, you're talking half of one of these little rows on that little map. So, I mean, that's not going to kill us about green space. But the second thing is, when they said phase 2 would be seeded, I think that means grass seeded. I'm not a landscaper, but so that's going to be a major green space during whatever time it is. I know, I'm just saying that it's going to be nice to have right next to it green space for however long that lasts. It's going to be nice, but yeah, so I just want to point those two things out about the green space. But thank you, I'm ready to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have a motion. We have a second. Oh, I'm sorry. When I was looking at you, I didn't look at the little yellow stripe here. Go ahead, Mr. Destin.
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but do we have any ability to tell where we are in our mixed-use district as to mixed use?
You mean how many?
Yep.
Many what? Residential? How many commercial? Are you asking?
What is the standard that we're working towards to make a mixed district actually a mixed district?
Oh, so for all our mixed-use districts, especially like this one here, which is towards more commercial related, has to have at least a 20% commercial component to it. As they mentioned to you, this is phase one of their project. So we're going to see perhaps that residential component come in. But having such a huge commercial footprint is a very good deal for us as far as what's the aim of that district is concerned.
So I guess the next 8 acres must have residential on it? No?
We will look to seeing if they are the ones who are developing it, they have to look at that mixed component to it, and we'll see what that mixed component is.
And how big is the district?
I'm sorry?
The district, I guess we can look at the comp plan.
Oh, how big is the district? Well, from,
How many acres? I guess?
what'd you say?
A lot.
I would say probably maybe 40, 50.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all right. Maybe we'll figure that out before we approve something else.
Right.
Yeah, and just about everything right now in that whole area is nothing but commercial. So if we want to change how that footprint looks, it'll be up to the council. I'll be up on the other side of the podium. I'll provide y'all some really good ideas. Because I'll be done.
Mayor, unfortunately, we did change that when we made it mixed use in the comp plan. The fact is that nothing's happening any different.
Well, that property's set the way it has been for 24 years, so at least this is a start. If they could close the deal by whenever, next year. Let's see. Okay, you're out of it. Bobby, what do you want to say, sir?
Just a question. Do we know how much the CRA evaluation will go up from this improvement of the parcel?
That's a crystal question. Considerably more than what we currently have. That'll be my immediate answer, but how much is that's something our finance folks need to.
Maybe we can discuss that on the 19th, right? In the joint CRA meeting.
Yeah.
Ms. Crystal, if you hear us, she's not, oh.
The 19th.
Yeah, maybe have that data available on the 19th?
The data comes from the property appraiser, so it's not something I'm going to have readily available.
All right, thank you.
Dang it. Can't make it up? Nah. All right, Mr. Bagby.
Just two quick things. Number one, before you bring us another one in this any mixed-use district, please include the statistics on how much commercial and how much residential is in there in the staff report. Number two, just so I'm clear, if the second parcel, they decided to actually make mixed use and put in residential, my understanding, but I want to make sure, this project would count against their 20% commercial requirement, even though they're treating it as two different parcels, it's one parcel from our perspective. Is that correct? They should.
Anybody want to answer that question?
Sorry, we're conferring here. Could you repeat your question, please?
They've got land, they've got 19 acres, whatever 21 acres, okay? They've got 9 or 11, I can't remember which one, that's not being developed, that's being overseeded. If they decide to develop that as residential, they could use the 11 or 12 that they developed for the store and the liquor store as the 20% requirement for the commercial component for that mixed-use development. Because in our, at least my understanding, in our view, that's all one parcel, one development, once they own it.
Yeah, if they treat it as one development, correct. You're correct that they will have one.
No, they are, so even though they're phasing it, they are treating it as one development. Is that your position?
Right now, correct, yes.
Thank you.
All righty then. We have a motion, and we have a second, and we've had discussion, so let's take it to a vote. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Looking forward to working with Publix as a partner in the development of our community. All righty, it's 7:30, let's take a quick 5-minute break because there's looks like a lot of our council members have some items to discuss. See you, John. All right, let's go. Item number 6, Councilman Braden, we'll just start with you. A1, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that was waiving the fees accrued so far to date by the Destin High School. I really didn't like the way that went down. I don't know how many months that went on for the city decided to charge them or say they owed the fees. Timing was horrible. So I want to make a motion to the city waive all the fees accrued to date by the Destin High School.
I second that.
I got a motion, I got a second. Anybody have any comments about that? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved.
That's all I have tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mayor. It sounds like we've already been discussing with Walton County to kind of really, for this LDV situation for the low-speed vehicles, AKA the golf carts. I think some of it, if you've been around Main Street and Airport, it gets a little out of hand with minors driving the golf carts, and it's definitely a safety hazard and issue. Outside of our locals, definitely I think people coming here and they get a golf cart provided with a short-term rental, I think it's a wise decision for us to really unify with the rest of the Panhandle on the safety procedures and where they can and can't go. I know I see them on the sidewalks on 98, and, you know, half of it's our fault, half of it's their fault. So I just wanted to really do a good effort of solidifying the safety and where you cannot ride in a golf cart, a low-speed vehicle. So I think with that, just a motion to have staff continue to work with our neighboring partners to solidify a online and in-person sticker program. I know you guys had anything in particular, so I'll wrap up the motion, then you guys can discuss. But I would like to move to direct city staff to work with the Sheriff's Department and other municipalities in the area and county to come up with a low-speed vehicle safety requirement and education piece.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. My comments to that is, Ms. Catherine, that's right up your alley. That'll be real important, and the sheriff's going to have a big hand in this because they're the ones that actually enforce. These are moving vehicle violations. You know, we can do our best to just like we do our beach warnings and our communications, you know, about safety. So I think we're on the right track there, but maybe staff, Catherine, you guys could come up, just like Leave No Trace Behind, come up with a catchy deal, logo and all that, and we can make a social media attempt to improve the awareness. I mean, we have an ordinance, we have maps already on our website showing where you can and cannot use them, but apparently nobody sees
I don't really go to any other vacation town and go to their city
Does it also
website.
say they have to be a driver's licensed age, like 12-year-olds that are driving to AOC?
Yeah,
Is there an age limit on a golf? Yeah, see? That's what I'm saying. That's real easy. I can spot them.
Walton County has done a pretty good job with this, and we've actually got a meeting with them this week. And so also we have our Sheriff's Department who's going to be there. So if we can work with our neighbors, just like Mr. Wagner was saying, it looks like they've got a pretty good template. And honestly, people don't know when they're in Walton County versus Destin. So if we can maybe look at that, unifying that message, then I think it's going to be good for all.
Rodney?
Thanks. I agree with the motion and all, but I would ask that Councilman Wagner change his motion to direct the city manager because we cannot direct staff to make it legal. I think.
Yeah. So moved.
Good with a second? Yep. All right. Let's take a vote. You want to talk? I want to put on public record that the second was Councilman Bobby Schmidt and not Teresa Hebert. I know.
That's still 2 votes.
All right, going on down the line, Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have one brief one. Mr. Belser, who is in the audience tonight, discussed with us at the last meeting, trying to slow down some of the speeds on Seibert. And I would note that we have a raised pedestrian crossing at the corner of Zerby and Calhoun. And that sidewalk goes directly over to our parking lot at Zerby and Seibert. And so I would put on the agenda at the next meeting that we direct the city manager to go forward with a raised pedestrian crossing there that would be identical to the one that's on Calhoun.
And, we have bobbleheads on that. We don't need a motion, correct? Okay, we're good.
Councilmember Destin just wanted to put it on the next meeting.
Well,
Okay.
That's all.
for fear that we may not get 5 votes for tonight.
Yeah.
I would think we would, but.
But do we have asphalt back in the system?
Small quantities only. We did get a quote for the installation of a speed hump for one of our local streets, and it came in at $7,500 for one. So that's kind of the price right now. I do have feelers out for other quotes from other asphalt contractors, but we'll bring that back to you.
Yeah, we want to be working in that direction, but.
Michael left out that sparkly stuff you see in asphalt's the gold.
Yeah,
It's not.
no kidding. Of course, 7,500 is still a small price to pay for life.
Bagby.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry, I have a few things tonight. The first, I'd like to amend since we were talking about the Youth Council, Resolution 1736, specifically Section 2. I think the intent was to make sure we didn't have a majority of non-resident members as opposed, and so we set it at 3 because if we only had 7 volunteer, then 3 wouldn't be a majority. But if we have 14, so I would like to amend Section 2 to read, hang on, whoops, too far. I had it pulled up. Section 2, the Destin City Council may appoint up to 30% of the members as non-residents who attend a local area high school or homeschool to fill any vacancies occurring during the year.
I have a motion,
Second.
and I have a second. Any further discussion?
The more the merrier.
Yep.
All right, seeing none, let's take a vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so that would allow us to have 4 members, and as the 4th member, I'd like to appoint Palmer Lindsley to the Destin Youth Council. While he does not live in the city limits, his dad operates and owns a business in the city limits and pays all our taxes. And I can personally attest that his willingness to support the Youth Council and the mission that it has.
Does he go to Destin High School? But you live in Destin, don't you?
No, he lives in Kelly.
Second.
My kids went to Fort Walton Beach High School. Yeah, go Vikings. All right, go Sharks. We have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, John, you seconded it. Any further discussion?
You didn't, Kevin?
Let's take a vote. Ayes have it. Congratulations, sir. Do a good job.
And now, I broached this before, the city managers, and I decided not to move this to a decision at the last meeting till we passed the budget. But we passed a budget that gave a 2% COLA, which the city manager will get, and up to a 4% merit increase. Based on my evaluation, and anybody can say anything, I would recommend that we give the city manager a 3.5% merit increase for the fiscal year beginning 1 October 2022.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. I'm going to ask a question.
Sure.
Go ahead, Ms. Abear. You beat me to the button.
At this time, I think it would be fair to continue to give all city staff the same, from the management all the way down, merit, say everything should be the same unless somebody is going above and beyond, and that's what we talked about, and that's what we agreed to, because we were trying to keep it level. So I feel like, this is an unnecessary bump at this point.
I have a question there, Mr. Bagby. The cap is 4%. And you recommended 3.5%. I think he ought to get the cap because I think he's done an extremely good job. So I just want to know why you only made it the 3.5.
Sure, because I believe leaders set the example. Number one, I think he's done a great job. Has he done a perfect job in the last 12 months? No. But he's done a great job. I think the advances the city has made, the staff has made, that the culture that has changed, he's been a huge part of that. But I'm a person who, when I do my annual evaluations for my staff, and I tell them, I don't give fives. And I don't, we grade our folks on a 1 to 5 scale. I don't give fives. If you're doing your job and you're doing a good job, you get a 3. If you really are in the top 5% in one area of the 16 or how many every areas we evaluate, you get a 4, but nobody ever gets more than 3 or 4 4s. I'm a hard grader, but I'm a hard grader on myself too. I don't expect to get 100% of my bonus. And you have stretch goals and you don't get 100%, and that's why I want to make sure going forward he delineated it. I think he's done a great job. I would like to see, and this is where we kind of have to figure out our guidance to the city manager, is, as I said before, in April, the first meeting in April, I want you to come back and tell me what the average merit increase is, because everybody, this isn't everybody gets a trophy. Some people really work their tails off, and maybe they get a 3.5 or a 4%. Some people do a good job, they should get a 3%. Some people who don't do a great job or a good job, maybe they should get 2%. The average ought to be somewhere, in my personal opinion, between 3 and 3.5. And so I was going to recommend a 3, but then I thought, no, for this year, probably the average ought to be 3.5% for the staff in April. And we probably have 8 different opinions up here on this dais, or 10, counting those guys. But I don't think it should be 4 across the board. That is not the intent of a merit increase.
Very good answer to my question. Very clear and concise, and I have to agree with you.
Okay, so the motion is,
3.5.
we're addressing the city manager tonight, not the
Yes,
rest of the employees,
not the rest of the staff.
who we have no ability to give merit to at all. Okay.
Mr. Bagby's already spoke eloquently. Mr. Braden.
Thank you. I would agree with Teresa with that. I think all the management should get it because the great job that the city manager's done, he's done it with a chief deputy city manager that the city has never had since existence. So he's had a tremendous amount of help that nobody other city managers have. So I think that they should get the same amount. Whatever he gets, they should get the same amount, because they've all done a tremendous job.
I would just go back to Mr. Destin's point. We have one person, okay, the city manager. He gets to determine everybody else, and if he thinks everybody else ought to get a 4%, that's up to him. I would disagree, and when he brings those numbers back the first meeting in April, and he says, yep, everybody is doing so fabulous, every single person earned 4%, I'll probably have a private conversation with him, because I won't agree with that. And I'm not asking when they bring it back, I don't want names, I don't want, the people, the management team got this, and the other people, and, Parks and Rec got that, and I just want to know what the average is of the merit increase. And so I understand what you're saying. He does have a great team. He built that team, okay? Now, we've resourced the positions, but he's built that team. He's helped train that team, and he will reward them, I believe, accordingly. But we only deal with one guy,
And that's what the motion,
and that's what my motion is.
that's right. Okay?
And what I wanted to say was, I realized that he's done a great job. He's got a lot of staff. But there was several people that brought up tonight code compliance, which is, Lance held that hat while we were trying to find a replacement. And the amount of compliance, non-reinforcement, the people that are doing things and not really being held accountable and paying the fines. I mean, I just feel like there's a big chunk of things that need to be done that aren't being done. And there was a several-month window in a very important section of what's required in this city to enforce things that need to be done to help people realize we're serious about it. I would make a second, maybe an adjustment to yours, or, a modification to yours to maybe a 3, not a 3.5, because I feel like there was a huge area that he has not taken care of, the code compliance department. We've got a new leader in that department now, but my thoughts are that, that is a big part of what is, we've heard it tonight, it's kind of failing our citizens, failing our businesses, because there are a lot of rogue operators, there are a lot of unallowed permitting happening all around the city because they're not really being managed or fined for doing the illegal. And that's a lot to do with what the city manager is in charge of. So you have to look at, okay, he's doing a great job, he's got great staff, but there's a lot of areas that really do need a whole lot more of a kick tail, take names, kind of, get in there, and I feel like sometimes that attitude hasn't been taken, and that's why we are being taken advantage of as a city, because we have people that come in and go, they're not going to do anything, I'm going to rogue out of here, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go build this shed. I've got people in my neighborhood that have built stuff, said, I didn't know I had to have a building permit. So I feel like there's a lot of things that could be fixed, so I don't feel like a 3.5. If you're going to give the merit, I would be good at a 3, but nothing higher.
Hold on, Jim. I totally disagree, Ms. Hebert. First and foremost, he's not the code enforcement director. He normally hires one and maintains his leadership over that person. That is a whole different department that's understaffed, overworked, and when you're up to your butthole in alligators, it's often hard to remember that the main objective was to drain the swamp. And you can only do so much in a 24-hour day. And with what he's done, with what he's had to work with, at times 30% undermanned, I think it was at times. I think that's totally outlandish to try to throw that on onto our city manager. I agree totally with Jim's perspective. His answer was clear and concise, had a lot of rationale, and I totally disagree with dropping him down to a 3 because code enforcement had some problems when he's not the code enforcement guy. And he was for 2 months on top of everything else. And that's unfair. Mr. Bagby, and then Mr. King, and then Mr. Destin.
Mayor, I'll wait and I'll back clean up and let everybody make their points, and I'll try to address any, because I understand exactly what Teresa, and I was torn between 3 and 3.5, but my motion is 3.5, and I'll answer all the other questions once everybody makes it.
Correct. I'll let you play cleanup then. Mr. King, then Mr. Destin.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I was gonna make the same point. I think if you wanna dock his code compliance evaluation, I would say that's one thing, but critiquing Lance on his city manager position because he was swamped with another job that's not in his job title, I think is ridiculous.
I think Lance is doing a pretty good job. 3 out of 4 is a pretty good reward, in my opinion. As far as code enforcement is not his job, everything here is his job. He's the boss. And, you make the point that boss is the boss. The buck stops here, that's the way it works. Ms. Aber, if that was a substitute motion at 3, I'll second it.
I have a substitute motion, and the second, or the motion maker agreed to that substitute motion. Who seconded that?
I just want to clarify, is Teresa making a substitute motion for 3%?
And the substitute
Okay,
motion
and
was for
Dewey's-
3%.
Dewey's seconding?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clean that up for the record.
All right. And Mr. Braden, we have a whole nother discussion. Go ahead.
This is my second time, Mayor, and be the last. Yeah, I agree. When you're the city manager, you're the city manager. Every job falls under you. It's his job, no matter what. It's like in my business. I'm the boss, I'm the owner. It all falls under me. If you want to be the city manager, you're over everybody. You need to know what every department's doing, where they're failing, where their strengths are. That's the city manager's job. He is the city manager. It's like the manager of Winn-Dixie. He's over all them departments, not just the meat department, and not including the produce department. He's over every department. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Mr. Babby, can you remind me, we're doing this now based upon the budget cycle because, to get it back in alignment, which we should have always been doing it about now?
Yes, we should have been doing this in September, but we didn't have metrics to, in September or even August when we did the budget to say, well, that's what his merit increase
Yeah.
should be. So,
And
yes.
then what have we done in recent months or year, merit or increase something? Didn't we change something within the past year? Oh, we did something about a vehicle.
We raised
We raised
hey,
the vehicle
we raised
allowance. We did something. There was some type
Oh,
of
yeah,
raise or
we
merit. It
did
wasn't
give
merit.
him the first raise in 4 years, in April, I think. I don't know, he may remember when it was.
Well, does anybody remember what we did, Crystal? HR director?
I believe it was like a 2% each year, so we got him up to speed, was it, for 2 years? Gave him 4% or something?
And we did something.
No, I think it was like a 5%, which over 5 years or 4 years, was,
He
I
don't
don't want
know.
to say,
He's the one got the raise, he don't know?
Right. Sorry, you don't have to answer it. But we,
My check goes directly to my wife, so.
and then the timeline, I know we're just doing.
There's many folks up here that can relate, sir. So we're not going to hold you to the fact that you don't know how much your raise was.
Right. And
I
then-
got it.
This is the city manager, only one person, I get that, but then the timeline for staff merits will be when? When does that take place? Anniversary date? Gotcha. That answers the question. Yeah, I mean, I'll touch base on a couple of the comments Teresa, and, I agree with Johnny and some people about, during the 2-month hiatus of no director, I don't want to penalize Lance for that time, but let's just use one common example that we've talked about a couple times tonight of livery vessels and rogue operators. It's been a 2-year issue. I off the top of my head, I don't know what has changed to better that process in 2 years. And I know before it's been longer than 2 years, but I'm just using my 2 years. So, and that's just one item that had been talked about tonight. But sometimes there's a lot of good that our staff does and our city manager does and deputy city managers do, but unfortunately, the biggest items are the public ones, the ones that are the most important to the citizens and the business operators in our city. So there are things that Teresa mentioned that I agree with that we need to look at. But yes, Lance does do a good job. Nobody's perfect. I get that. But I'll just use that one example that we've talked about many times for 2 years that, I would love to see some eventual action happening. So, but anyways, I just want to get some clarification on the dates. Thanks, Mr. Bagman.
Thanks, sir. Go ahead, Jim. We're going to wrap it up and take a vote on the substitute motion.
Okay, couple of points. Every single election I've stood for, except for the special election, the number one issue in this town has been code enforcement. Every single one of them. We weren't doing enough. We've never had enough people. It's a laundry list. It's always code enforcement. The only reason it wasn't number one last August is because of those stupid helicopters coming out, because, I go door to door and you talk to people and they will tell you, when you getting rid of those helicopters? Well, actually, that's the county owns, but they don't want to hear that, so every single election. I would say a couple of things. Remember, we're doing his performance over the last year, so that's kind of our time frame, not what he did the year before or the 3 years before or whatever. This is an evaluation, and of course, we don't have metrics. We have them now for next year, but we didn't have metrics for our evaluation of him this past year. And so he did do a good job. On the code enforcement thing, well, that's why he's not a 4. That, in my mind, that's exactly why he's not a 4. Why? Because and I don't fault him. I would also say our rating of him is really our rating of us. Okay? Because our responsibility is to resource him. So when we're not resourcing him to pay the staff enough money so that he can go hire people, so we can get out of a 30% vacancy hole, that's not the city manager. That's everybody sitting up here. If we don't resource him and his team to do the work we want, that's not a reflection of his performance. That's a reflection of our performance. And I will tell, and that's why I led off with, we have done some great things in the past year. I love the direction we're headed. I love the culture that we're creating, and I love, but he's not getting a 4. I didn't recommend a 4 because there's still a lot of things to fix, but some of them are on us. And we have worked hard, I think, to raise people's pay, to make sure that they have conditions where we can go hire people, where we can get an HR manager, where we can get a city engineer, where we can get, I can go down this list, it was long and distinguished, where we can get a code enforcement director. We've resourced him. My expectations for his evaluation next year will raise, because we have done our job, but it's really a reflection. There are probably some people in this room think he's a 2. Well, that's just a reflection of what they think we performed in the last year. And that's all I'll say. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. King?
That's the point, Mr. Bagby, that's the point I was going to make, is if we're starting this, this grading scale out at a 4. If Lance didn't do a great job with code enforcement, I think he knows better than anybody how he did enforcing the code, and was able to, and went to find us a new code enforcement director. So I think if we're starting out at a 4 and you want to dock him some because of that performance, then I think the 3.5 is more appropriate. But I don't think we're starting out at 3.5 like Mr. Bagby says. I think if there was an area where he didn't do a great job, that's it, if you feel that way. But I think starting out at a 3.5 and going to a 3 I find it to be ridiculous.
I don't get to vote. I'd vote no on this substitute motion myself for the very reasons that you and Jim spoke of. But let's take this thing to a vote and on the substitute motion, which is 3% merit. And it passes 4-3. So moved.
Mayor, one last thing I would like to, I served with Dot Jones on the tree board, on the old tree board. That was my first public committee that I served on, and she was a great lady, and I just want to remember her. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Hebert.
Thank you, Mayor. I was working with Louis and I, talking about what we were going to do on the utility box paint project update, and you had the fortune to meet with Miss Robin today. Do you have any information on what we're going to do with the utility boxes from your meeting?
Yeah, yes, thank you. I did have a meeting today, and so here's the report of where we are. We've identified an artist, Ms. Robin, and also figured out her capabilities as far as this project is concerned, so that's in order. I was supposed to go out this week with the representative of Florida Light and Power, but because of the issues down south, he's out there on call. When he gets back, we are going to go around the city, identify all their utility boxes, and then figure out where we would start. So those are the two key parameters that we have. And then obviously I'm going to bring the matter to the council here for formal action, because we're going to need some resources to buy the paint and also the equipment that she's going to use to do that.
Okay, Bernard had sent me the thumbs up on the one at the AOC that is currently more of a memorial for Colton because of the accident. And Bernard had said that definitely was just cable and phone, has nothing to do with power. He said our lines are up behind the AOC. There's nothing in that box that's theirs. So is there any way we could at least maybe make that our starting point, if, you know, we can find out about if those two utilities will give us authorization of what they can do with it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can start there. But obviously, we got to identify all the other places that we got to go to, especially their own utility boxes, because all of them, they're not theirs. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a couple people that want to ask questions here. Mr. Braden?
Thanks. I know Dr. Ramswell started that project a couple years ago, and we talked about it at several meetings. What happened to it? Does anybody know?
I brought it back up because she had started it, and I didn't see anything happening, so I talked to Louis and said, what do we need to do? And he said, got to find somebody to have a special paint work, and I talked to this lady, Robin, that does decorate utility, not boxes necessarily, but walls and stuff, and she could do murals, and she suggested that we put like a picket-type fence around the box so that we weren't painting the box, but we painted the fencing, and then put like, for instance, on the one on the Main Street one, put Colton's cross on that and make that a memorial around that box so that all the little stuff that the family has put there, sometimes like the teddy bears and stuff, you know, they get washed out or whatever. We're trying to make it more of a nice, clean, you know, nice memorial for them to start there. Like I said, nothing was going on with it. Talked to Louis. It was kind of at a flat point, didn't have a painter, didn't have anyone else that was looking at it. And I talked to her, ironically, out at Crab Island one day, and I was like, hey, would you be willing to? She goes, I'd love to do that. Who do I need to talk to? So that was in July. Sent her to Louis, and then Louis has just been trying to work out scheduling and stuff to get her in to look at exactly what to do. And then now it's the utility companies that are clarifying, which they don't have some of the boxes. FPL does a lot of theirs above. But most of those boxes have cable and phone.
Dr. Ramswell, can you add anything, if it's okay with the council, to maybe save the staff some time? I know we worked on it quite a bit. Is it okay with council?
Go ahead.
It's weird coming at y'all from this angle. I'm glad you picked the project up. I had actually done a lot of preliminary work that I'm happy to share. Louis may still have some of it. One of the things that we had looked at was in many cities such as New Orleans, there were some areas where actually using the specialized paint on the box wasn't something that they actually could do. So what many locations had done was literally build little wood boxes that fit over the utility boxes, and they would paint those and literally just set them over that. That way, if there was some sort of situation where people needed to get into that utility box, very simple, they would just lift that up, move it, and they would have the access they needed. And I think one of the things that we had talked about was actually having groups, as long as we knew the proper paint that would stay on there and be safe and not a problem, as long as we knew that particular type of paint, we would then talk to whatever group wanted to paint their particular box and make sure they were using that special kind of paint. So,
Thank you.
good.
Mr. Wagner?
No, I love the idea. Down in South Florida, you see it everywhere, so it's definitely something, we're not reinventing the wheel here. And especially with now we having new districts and we're kind of trying to bring those districts to life, I think we should definitely theme it out and have these themes on these paint boxes kind of represent the districts that they're in.
And that's, you said the magic word. That was the reason I wanted to ask. And Dr. Ramswell, I'm not sure you guys thought about it at the time. Was there any consideration of what those themes would be? Because the artwork on those boxes is cool, but you'd want it to be kind of fit the community versus
Yeah.
just letting people do haphazard stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We had talked about establishing some sort of process where they would submit, like, let's say, for example, the utility box by one of the fire stations. The fire station crew could actually be in charge of that one and maybe paint the fire station trucks or whatever. But the idea would be to make sure it was, not something outrageous or offensive to some. They would submit to the city for approval their basic idea so that
Yeah.
it wouldn't go crazy.
Right. I think that's an absolute must.
And I know Fort Walton Beach did something for that, for downtown with the water mains, and they just went through a process. There was only a few water mains, and they had hundreds of applications. So there's a lot of cultural alliances out there, and I don't think we're going to have any problem even painting 50 of them if there's that many, or however many we identify later on.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that there was some type of process to apply and some renderings of what you're going to put on that box before we drive by and go, oh my God, who did that? So anyways, that's a great idea. Teresa, you still had some other stuff.
Thank you, Mayor. The second item I wanted to talk about was, we've had residents, and I'm sure Kevin and I both have gotten the same emails from some of these our constituents asking, look, if we can just walk our dog in the morning around that big campground, it's just open space. What is the legitimacy, Lance, as city manager, to allow a dawn to dusk sort of walking dogs on a leash until the Crosstown Connector is complete? So like for the next year and a half, sort of like you can walk, but there's brambles there, so it's at your own risk. We don't have Parks and Rec that are going to have time to go clean it up. But if you want to use it, it's going to be one of those, use it, in the sense of it's a open space to walk, but it's not something that, we're not going to set up football games and stuff like that. What do you think?
I think it's kind of being used that way now for a lot of the people in that neighborhood. So, and I've discussed, I think, with everybody up here that, I know there's a lot of sand spurs in there, so people, if they're going to take their dog in there, they need to be aware that there's a lot of sand spurs in there and stay on the part that's beaten down. The only thing I would like to do before we took the no trespassing signs off is to verify with our risk management and insurance that it's not creating any sort of additional liability that we can't handle under our current policy.
Do you know how long it'll take to clarify that? Can we get that done within a week, you think? So we can sort of say, okay, mid-October, it's perfect fall weather, morning walks, evening walks, whatever.
We should be able to get that done by the next meeting. That shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And with that, Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. King?
This is kind of off the cuff. I just have one thing. I was talking to John Stevens before this meeting, and we were talking about his wife, Allie. I don't know if y'all remember, but they had the archery in the schools, and it's something that I'm passionate about. I think I don't know what the exact goals are for them, but I just wanted to tell you that Allie and John, y'all have my support in helping get all that, get whatever you need to promote the sport of archery. And, Miss Lisa, I'd like to get with you afterwards and just talk through some ideas. I think it's a great thing, something I'm really passionate about. Just want to let y'all know you have my support. Thanks.
Thank you. On top of Ms. Abear's point, right, I don't recall if I put a timeline on a motion at that previous meeting, if there was a timeline, but I don't know if you're still working on that and if that much detail will be ready by next meeting, but I just wanted to reiterate that particular motion to bring back some ideas or whatever it said. I don't recall it at the top of my head, but I know there was a directive to do something, so just keep that in mind. Second thing, Lance, or maybe Mayor, we've talked about before, a long time ago, the entrance, Coast Guard, the billboard, blah, blah, blah. I know it's all them, and we tried some things in the past and it didn't work out, but they built the fence now. That's all there, I believe. I think that's done. You know, one, can we talk to them about the concrete barriers? You know, at first they put those there to prevent people from parking and going in, but now there's a fence. So do we still need the concrete barriers? Because now the concrete barriers don't get maintenance and there's weeds and it's just looking like the interstate when you're driving through a city or something. You know, it's overgrown. So I didn't know if there's either you or you could have a conversation with those contacts again to say, hey, if we're going to keep it here, what can we do? What can
It's
the
a
county
new
do?
general.
New general, but maybe we can open those conversations up again.
Yeah, I'll get with Lance and we'll reach out to the new commander of Eglin Air Force Base. General Kane has
Right.
moved on, and
Okay.
we'll look into that.
If it's a new commander, maybe we start big again. But at minimum.
I'm okay with that.
Right, but at minimum, if we could see about the barriers and the cleaning up of it, that'd be great.
Yeah, me and Mel went last time, and I'll reach out to Mel as well.
Sure.
And see if we can't reconstitute another meeting with the commander and have that discussion.
Because if you can't do the lights and the sign, I get that, but at minimum, I think we could at least clean it up a little bit. And I know
Roger, I agree with you.
there was some recent talk about the Okaloosa Island, trash and all that landscaping. I saw, Mr. Destin's son was out. I mean, there are a lot of people were out there recently about Okaloosa Island. I don't know if that's been discussed with the county already or not, so it's kind of a hot topic anyway.
Yeah,
so it might
that's
be a good
why,
time.
I think we'll reach out to Commissioner
Awesome.
Ponder and double team
Sounds
the
great.
commander and have that discussion. I think that'll be the best route, not just the city, because it's really,
If you want to be really effective, go see if Mr. Gates will send his military liaison aide with you.
no, I don't have his military liaison, but I do have his director here.
I have his liaison. I just had a meeting with him.
Okay, great. I'll get that from you, Mr. Wagner.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
really
it does.
good.
It will.
It'll smooth things.
All right. That's it. Okay, lastly, I want to bring this up for the councils to consider. I'd like to see this on the agenda for our next meeting. We've had a lot of discussion about Morgan Sports Center and all the different programs, and I reached out, and I spoke with Lance, because that's his specialty. That's what he got his degree in, is recreation. I talked to Ms. Firth, and I think it's maybe time for us to look back of what was successful for Destin city-run sports programs and take a good hard look at going back to our traditional seasons for each one of those sports. I think what's happening is we're trying to please everyone all the time with fall this and spring that, and they're overlapping each other. And I think what's happening is we're getting mediocre out of it. I think if the city, because it's a city-run program, I think we ought to focus, this is my recommendation, and I'd like to get it on the agenda so we can have that discussion, maybe see a motion come out of it, but to help our recreational team to go to traditional sports seasons, have the best programs that this city can provide for those programs with the best facilities, and then all the extraneous stuff like travel or fall ball or spring soccer or however, the additional ones. Well, those parents and those folks can put their teams or their little programs together. They could lease and utilize Morgan Sports by leasing it. But the city-run programs, I think, would be so much better serve the kids with better quality, more organization, plenty of practice room, and let that be the focus. But football, maybe, in soccer in the fall. You got, in wintertime, we have a lot of our adult sports, because it's too cold for the kids to go out there and play ball at night. In the spring, you have baseball. Let those be the focal points for our community, and allow Miss Firth and her team to put the really good programs together, keep the fields in immaculate condition, and then all the other stuff, these different organizations, they can go ahead and do it and find out what the availability is. But for Destin, I just remember when we were president, both of us were presidents of the Destin Little League and the Playground Area Soccer Association. It's enough when you have 3 boys, like I had. Just doing traditional seasons, those overlapped. There were times my wife was in 9 sports at one time because of the overlaps, not travel ball and all the stuff that's going on right now. I really think that it would better serve our community and all our sports programs, and most importantly, our recreational department, to provide better programs if we took a good hard look of returning to traditional seasons, and then all the other stuff, whether it's tournaments or if guys want to get together and have fall baseball, so then they can find out, they can put the program, they can run their own program, they can lease our fields and utilize them that way. But when it comes to Destin City-run sports, I think we'd be so much better served in our kids. So I'd like to see that on the agenda. Maybe you guys could have a team meeting within your group of leaders, Lance, and come up with some ideas. It's right up your alley, your specialty, and maybe make some recommendations. Kevin?
I'll support that, and if you need a council member to do that instead of the mayor to direct to the city manager, I'm all about it, so.
And I'll
I
second
agree
it.
with you.
Yep.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, all I was asking is just to
I know,
get it
I
on the
just-
agenda.
I know, I just
Yeah,
wanted to be.
but are you good with that, Lance, without getting a motion? You guys? All right, well, hopefully we'll see that on the September, or October 17th, I guess it is our next meeting. All right, and that's all I got. Kim?
Nothing, thank you.
Kyle?
Nothing here.
All right. Last, before we go home, we got time for public comment. Come on up. In case this is your first time, just state your name, your address.
Pablo Ramswell, Country Club Drive East in Destin. I want to thank you guys tonight and for everything you've done back since 2016 to support that crazy idea I had of the Destin High School. Y'all have really come through in multiple ways, and seeing all the motions and everything made tonight that really continue to support the idea of the Destin High School and all it is looking to do and to expand, it does my heart good, it does this community good, and I really can't thank y'all enough. I had one question about when you were reading the Destin Youth Council thing, you said one of the lines in there was must attend a local high school. And I don't know if that's something in the future, if that's something that needs to be narrowed down, or what exactly local means. Does it mean Okaloosa County? Does it mean now Destin or Fort Walton? Right. That's what I was just saying. I don't know if that's something that might need to be winnowed down in the future to make it more digestible.
A lot of Destin kids, not a lot, but there are kids that transfer they still live here, and they go to Niceville or they go to
Even
Fort Walton,
Crestview.
even though we have a new charter high school. So I think by just saying local high school, that
Keeping it
covers all the
vague.
bases. Because the kids are still involved in Destin.
Yeah.
If they're on this board, they're going to make an impact.
They'll help us.
Yep.
Thanks.
Mayor, the resolution also says homeschool.
And homeschool. Yeah,
Good
and
deal.
see, my next door neighbor, his 2 daughters are homeschooled. They would be great candidates.
Yeah.
They could serve on that.
Give them a chance to help
That's
out too.
correct. Yeah.
Good deal. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate everything y'all do.
Thank you, Ms. Ramswell. Oh, and also, I just want to, this question was asked in our last debate when we first talked about Destin High School. The principal, Cruikshank, told me that 82% of the students attending that high school today are Destin residents. So that's good to know. Go ahead.
Kyron Mahler, 616 Second Street, Destin. Couple of quick things. Number one, on the moratorium. I was on the council when we first did the moratorium. I disagree with the moratorium. I think we're punishing the good guys for a few bad apples. I think there should be something else that we can do besides that. I really do believe that they deserve, I kind of agree with what Mr. Braden was talking about earlier. I think they deserve a chance to have a few more boats or whatever. The good guys shouldn't be punished for what a few bad guys do. Secondly, on the boxes and stuff, Ms. Hebert, if you're familiar with Harbor Walk Village, there's Kelly Paris. He painted a couple of the, now the Florida Power and Light transformers out there. So that would be a good idea with the kind of paints that he used. Because if you go out there, anyone goes out there and looks, you can see the ones that he painted.
You can give that to Lewis.
Yeah, I'll give that to Lewis. And also, with Florida Power and Light, we're still having issues around around 2nd Street, 1st Street, with vines growing up on the poles, with the transformers. They're interfering with the transformers. They're interfering with the TV cable and and some of the other utilities. And so I don't know who handles that, but I know right there at the corner of where I live and right there where the swampy area is, that we've got vines growing back up, and we've already had the transformer blow once last spring. So I'd hate to see it blow up again. And other than that, y'all doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment, and this meeting is adjourned.